Hey boys and girls, thanks so much for joining me for this week's Bible lesson. As you can see, I'm in my backyard and you might notice what is behind me. This is my camping tent and we're actually going to have our Bible story inside the tent. So come on with me, let's go inside and I'm gonna set the camera down right here. Can you see me? Let's raise it up just a bit. Anyway, so glad you're here, and you'll understand in just a minute why I am inside a tent. But our Bible story comes from Exodus chapter 23 through 31, and then a little bit from 35 through 40. So Exodus is found in the Old Testament of our Bible, and you'll remember we're talking about the Israelites, and the Israelites were God's chosen people, and they'd been through a lot, and they're out wandering in the wilderness because they're waiting for God to allow them to go into the promised land. And so in our story today, there is a special place that the Israelites built to worship God. And they built it to worship God in the desert. And God gave them very specific instructions on how to build this house of worship. And do you know what the house of worship was called? If you said tabernacle, then you're right. So let me read the story, and I'm going to be reading it from the Deep Blue Kids Bible. So it's a condensed version of it. It says, "Once again, Moses went up the mountain to talk to God. 'Moses,' said God, 'I want the people to build a place of worship for me.' Everyone had a special job to do. Some of the people were builders. They made beautiful chests and tables out of wood. Then they covered the wood with gold. Some of them could sew. They made curtains out of purple and blue cloth. Some people made special clothing for the priests to wear. God told them to make a special golden box called the sacred chest, or the Ark of the Covenant. They put the special rules called the 10 Commandments inside the box. People also brought gifts to use in building the special place to worship God. Some people brought gold and silver. The gold and silver was used to make beautiful things for the place of worship. Some people brought sweet-smelling spices. The spices would be used to make the special place of worship smell good. The place of worship was called the tabernacle. It was like a very large tent. Every time the people moved to a new place, they took the tabernacle with them. The place of worship reminded the people that God was with them." All right, boys and girls, and I have a picture right here, if you can see this, of what the house of God might look like. Okay, so it was a tent here, and then it had kind of like a fence like around it. And here in the middle, that was the box where they burned incense, good smelling stuff. And then this was where they washed their hands because they had to be purified. Washing hands has always been in style. And then inside the tent is where the Ark of the Covenant. And do you remember what was inside the Ark of the Covenant? It was the 10 Commandments, right? This very special place. And so on the other side, this is a handout that you might want to print out. It's included in the email. On the other side, you can actually draw what your house of worship might look like. What kind of house would you build for God? You know, we don't get to worship any longer in our sanctuary unless we get to see it online, and it's kind of like being there, but it's not really the same. But the important thing about the tabernacle is that it went anywhere that the people of God went. Did you notice that they said that they would pack it up and move it to the next place, wherever they camped? They would build this place of worship, this tabernacle. And so I have a couple of questions for you to see how well you were paying attention and to get you to think about where you worship God. So the first question I have is, do you have a special place where you go to worship God? Maybe it's a special place in your home. It can be anywhere. Maybe it's outside. I love worshiping God outside, and that's one of the reasons I put up my tent, not just as an illustration of the tabernacle, but of a very special place that I like to go when I'm worshiping God. So share that with your family and friends. Where do you like to worship God? And so in our story, do you remember what kinds of things were used to build the house of God? They're really precious things like gold and silver, really things that are valuable. And so it kind of speaks to the things that we bring to God in our worship. We bring our heart, and we bring our love and our song and our devotion to God. And then, of course, what was placed inside the house? And that was the Ten Commandments, God's rules and His guidelines for us. And it just shows that God really loves us and wants the best for us. And so, boys and girls, I hope that you will consider how you worship God and spend some time reflecting on that this week. I'm going to leave you with a blessing. A blessing is simply words that remind us how very special we are, and it's a hope and a promise to you. So you can repeat after me this blessing. God loves you. God remembers you. God will always be with you. Thanks again, boys and girls, for joining me. Have a great week. Bye.